Hi, my name is Michelle Cross. I'm Head of Service responsible for mental health and learning disabilities. I'm here today to talk to you about investigations and when we may suspend an employee. I'm often involved in disciplinary matters and where there are concerns about somebody's conduct and behaviour at work. These can lead to some informal management action or end with the employee being called into a disciplinary hearing and given formal warnings or even dismissed. One of the first things I consider is what information I have to enable me to move things on. From information, I start to get a picture of what might have happened, how serious that may be, and what information I may need to get and where I get that from. I also need to decide how formal the investigation will need to be. All cases are different, but I will use my experience in dealing with previous cases that help me decide what to do. There are a number of ways of investigating possible misconduct. Sometimes this can be relatively small, a short fact-finding exercise, for example, where managers carry out that investigation on our behalf. Sometimes it does lead to a much larger, more formal investigation, which needs to be carried out with HR support. This decision is usually based on the seriousness of the matter presented to me. One of the key things I have learned is always to act fairly and reasonably. If we are taking disciplinary action or calling someone into disciplinary hearings, we need to ensure that there have been a full and fair investigation. This is not about gathering information to provide information about whether misconduct has taken place, but rather to gather the facts of the case. It is the facts that I'm interested. It's not about personal or subjective opinions. The investigation should be balanced. It is often the case that information is available which supports an employee as well as suggests that they have not behaved appropriately. It has to be proportionate, appropriate to the issues raised. It's important that we keep an open mind, and what you uncover in an investigation is not always what you're expecting. Within the Council, we have lots of policies, procedures, rules and guidance. Any investigation has to consider not only what the employer may have done, but also what the result of their actions and what procedure does that relate to. An example could be safeguarding, capability. I have to take all of those into consideration. It's also important to avoid delays, both at the start of the investigation and to ensure it's completed within an appropriate time. I find it helps to build time into my diary to review each of the cases I'm responsible for. There are times when I have to consider suspension. Depending on the issue, I may have to consider suspending the employee from their duties while the investigation is ongoing. This is only a precautionary measure, and it's a neutral act. It does not indicate that I believe any wrongdoing has happened. The main reason to suspend someone is about risk. What is the risk to them continue to behave in the way that has been alleged? Is it likely to result in someone who uses the service coming to harm? In my service, I often deal with safeguarding cases and allegations of abuse. I have to be careful and consider those risks, allowing someone to keep on working while more information is gathered. In other cases, it might be there is a risk to the council reputation or credibility. If we allow someone to carry on working, I have to consider the facts within that case that's presented. Often it may be the case that having an employee in work causes risk of them corrupting evidence or even putting pressure on colleagues who may be needed to give information to the investigation. Suspending someone is a serious step to take. Although they keep getting their full pay and are not able to come into work, they feel isolated from their colleagues. In some cases this has to happen, but I always consider alternatives such as restricting someone's duties, looking at different working locations or other working arrangements which are appropriate. When thinking about a suspension, I always seek advice from HR colleagues. Often it's to help talk through the case and look at options with them. I find it helpful to regularly review someone's suspension and make sure that there is ongoing contact with them. I think one of the most important things to consider when you have got somebody on suspension is keeping in regular contact with that person so that they're kept up to date with what's going on and that they are aware of what progress that the investigation is making. I would advise any manager to make sure that regular contact is kept with any employee on suspension.